And today we have a fun, interesting video that we're going to be doing. I hinted at it in some previous videos post NFL draft, and that is going to be comparing my mock draft 1.0 to the actual 2020 NFL draft. So we're going to be comparing my very first mock draft for the 2020 class, which I did the day after the Super Bowl. I'm pretty sure I recorded that the morning after the Super Bowl, so February 3rd. I want you to keep a things in mind at this time. The Colts still had the 13th overall pick. The Vikings still had Stephon Diggs on their roster and never traded him at this time. The Texans did not trade for a bag of Doritos and a nose tackle, essentially. No, I'm just kidding. Ross Blacklock's actually a solid player. But they didn't basically trade a second round pick and a running back who has spent some time injured for a top 3 receiver in the league. So a lot of things were different. Coronavirus wasn't this serious, in terms of like shutting things down and social distancing. Like, none of that was really a big deal at the time when I made this mock draft. And I've made obviously 5 on the channel, but I think comparing the first one to what actually happened is more impressive because, back then it's like, well, damn, how accurate could you be? To me, if you nail 5 or more picks, because you gotta think, there's a lot of trades and stuff that goes down, new rumors that come out between February 3rd and the final week of April. That's just how the draft goes, man. And we're gonna go ahead and compare my results. So what I'm gonna be doing is going over the picks that I got right and going over some guys that I had in my first round who actually did not go in the first round, because I don't want to sit here and go through all 32 picks, and that's boring. So let's just condense this video a little bit, and we're going to start off with the number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow. I mean, that was an easy one to get right. Everybody pretty much at that time, pretty much by November, December-ish, I'm pretty sure a lot of people just assumed, well, if the Bengals have the worst record, they're going to go quarterback, and this is going to be their guy. And it ended up being Joe Burrow, so it stayed true basically throughout the entire draft process, so not really too hard to predict right there. I think even if you just knew a little bit about the NFL draft, you could have gotten that one right. And same thing with Chase Young at number 2 overall. This is one that I basically had the entire way. I never really entertained different scenarios such as, oh, will they go get a quarterback? Will they draft Tua or Herbert? Will they trade down and get one of the offensive tackles? Like, I never really entertained any of those scenarios, but I sticked with the Chase Young pick, and that is what happened throughout this process. And then the 3rd overall pick, I had Jeffrey Okudah in my mock draft 3.0, and Lions fans were like, nah, we're not going to draft Jeffrey Okudah, we're not going corner, we're going to draft Isaiah Simmons. And listen, obviously, and I'm not trying to disrespect Lions fans, obviously y'all don't know Matt Patricia that well. He values the cornerback position. Now, when he can get good value for much cheaper, he will do that. Example, Amani Oruwariye from Penn State. Great value, slid to him in the 5th round, started playing better towards the end of the year. But listen, this is basically like his team. He's trying to mold it into the Bill Belichick defense, and he needed to get a lengthy man press corner like Jeff Okudah, and he happened to be a top prospect in this class, and that's what he decided to do. Like, and Isaiah Simmons, I don't know how many times I need to say this, but Matt Patricia's scheme, the Bill Belichick scheme, he is not their kind of linebacker. They want guys who are more pass rushers that can drop back into coverage. They want the Kyle Van Noys of the world. They want Rob Ninkovich. They want Jamie Collins. They want Dante Hightower. Isaiah Simmons is more of a coverage linebacker that can play all over the field and offer versatility. He's not really a pass rusher. So yeah, that was a pretty obvious pick then. I get it. It's a flashy, sexy pick over there in Detroit, but I mean, come on, man. Come on. I get it, but come on. And then actually at this time in mock draft 1.0, I had Andrew Thomas as my number 1 tackle. I had him as my number 1 tackle throughout the class, but in terms of where he would get drafted, the NFL, at least they were giving off signals that they were lower on him. I'm glad the Giants made this pick. They drafted a guy who could actually play left tackle. And I think this gives them an opportunity to kick Nate Solder over to the right side and let him play right tackle and let Andrew Thomas develop as a true left tackle. Really like that pick. Andrew Thomas, a very consistent player at Georgia, had a great career at Georgia, was very highly thought of basically for the last 2 seasons at Georgia. And that's the pick that ended up happening. And then number 5, I had Tua for the entire process. Never really entertained Justin Herbert or Jordan Love or an offensive tackle. For me, it's basically been the same. It's been the same throughout this entire process. It's meant to be, man. It's going to happen one way or another. This pick has been submitted for well over a year. You guys just didn't know it. Well, some did, some didn't. And back in January, people were trying to hype up the potential, oh, they can go after Justin Herbert. And I'm just like, well, that's not their guy. They can put out smoke and mirrors and say, yeah, that's our guy. But they'd be lying not only to you guys, but to themselves. And they made the correct pick, in my opinion, as long as Tua can stay healthy. They made the right pick. And then speaking of Justin Herbert, I had him going number 6 to the Chargers. Now, I'm not the biggest Justin Herbert fan. To me, the same situation you see Jordan Love in, that's the situation he needs. He needs to sit for at least a year. In Jordan Love's case, it'll probably be like 2 or 3. But he needs to sit. He needs to learn how to play the quarterback position. He needs to work on his mechanics. And unlike Jordan Love, Justin Herbert really needs to work on how to process defenses and read defenses at the next level. You look at Jordan Love's tape against Utah State, he had some weird interceptions. I'm not going to sit here and act like he didn't have an issue with that, but I'm not going to sit here and act like, well, he's stupid and can't read defenses, so that's why he threw 17. There was literally one interception against Kent State, and I was just watching this film recently. There was one interception against Kent State where it literally hit like the running back's foot and just so happened to jump up in the hands of a safety. I mean, that's what you call being opportunistic. That has nothing to do with just the corner or the safety jumping the pass. It has nothing to do with Jordan Love putting the ball in a bad spot. It just got jarred out and happened to hit someone's foot and land in someone's lap for an easy interception. That has nothing to do with the quarterback, but, it goes towards their stats. And then the final pick that I got right, and there's a funny story behind this, and this is the Baltimore Ravens selecting Patrick Queen, linebacker out of LSU. In the 2019 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers had the 28th overall pick. And I had them selecting Jerry Tillery in my mock draft, and I basically kept it that way throughout the entire thing. And on draft night, they do select Jerry Tillery, the defensive lineman from Notre Dame. And right here at pick 28 in my first mock draft, I have them going with Patrick Queen, and that's who they actually ended up drafting. So I thought it was a pretty fun story. So next year, whoever has the 28th overall pick, whoever I say is going to go to your team via the draft, I just want you to know that that's exactly what's going to happen. I've been right on the 28th overall pick for 2 years, and it's going to happen again to complete the 28-3 joke. We're going to complete that joke. We're going to complete that meme. It's going to happen. And now let's talk about guys that I had mocked in the first round in this process who didn't go in the first round. To me, that's the more interesting discussion. Like, at this time, why did I have them going first in the first round, and what led to them not going in the first round? So we'll start off with AJ Epineza, who in this mock draft 1.0, I had him going to the Falcons. At this time, AJ Epineza was, an edge rusher who, yeah, he's a little bit bigger than you would want him to be, but technically sound, great against the run as well, and just a straight-up power rusher. You can kick him inside to be a rushing defensive tackle for a 4-3 team. To me, he just fits that Seattle scheme that Atlanta wants to run, and I thought this guy could be the Michael Bennett for that type of defense. And instead, AJ Epineza went into the second round to the Buffalo Bills, which I do like the fit of the Bills a lot. I think it is a great fit. I just never saw him going and slipping to that spot. And then you add on that the Bills traded their first round pick for Stephon Diggs. You would have never thought, okay, Epineza to the Bills because, well, I saw him as a first round pick. But it never happened, obviously, with him going first. He went second to Buffalo. Great fit. Like the fit. Another guy is Grant Delpit. I had Grant Delpit as like a top 25 player basically throughout this entire process. I've had him going all over the place from Jacksonville to Minnesota. I just felt like he needed to go to a defense where, you know, number one, they needed a safety. Minnesota, not so much because they have Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith. But with the trade rumors with Anthony Harris after getting franchise tagged, I was like, okay, well, maybe they can go get Grant Delpit. And if they do decide to keep Anthony Harris, well, what a great problem to have. Now you have 3 safeties that can play. Like, oh my God, what will I ever do in that scenario? So I really like that situation, but instead he goes to the second round to Cleveland, and similar to his LSU teammate Greedy Williams from last year's draft, he slid because of tackling concerns. Now, Greedy Williams has been pretty solid, I'd say, in his first year for Cleveland, and I expect Grant Delpit to be pretty good right off the bat. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to happen because this defensive class is pretty good, so this is not me making a prediction, but I would not be surprised at all if Grant Delpit was top 3 in Defensive Rookie of the Year. It just would not surprise me. He's in the situation in Cleveland. It's just one thing to actually go out there and do it. Obviously, I don't see it happening because you got Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, even Derek Brown can make some noise, Javon Kinlaw. I mean, there's a lot of guys in front of him that are going to be in better positions, but that would be a long shot little bet that you can make for him to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Another guy, Laviska Shenault. I really like Laviska Shenault. To me, Jacksonville, who got him in the second round, really going to enjoy this guy. He has that Deebo Samuel type of build to him. And I know there are a lot of guys getting compared to Deebo Samuel in this draft, and for good reason. I mean, Laviska Shenault actually has the versatility to be compared to Deebo Samuel. Laviska Shenault was not only a outside wide receiver, but he was a slot wide receiver. He played some running back, caught screens from all different parts of the field, was a wildcat quarterback. You could probably line the dude up at tight end if you really wanted to. Laviska Shenault brings a ton of versatility, and if Jay Gruden, the new offensive coordinator, can bring it out of him, well, that's going to be awesome. You know, and another guy is T. Higgins. T. Higgins I had going to the Bills when they had the 22nd overall pick. I said unless they trade the pick, this is not changing anytime soon. And, well, it changed because obviously they traded their 22nd overall pick for Stephon Diggs, along with a couple of other picks, which really isn't a big deal. So, you know, it is what it is. And on top of that, T. Higgins went like 33rd overall, which is the first pick in the second round. So it's not like his slide was anything crazy. He just slid like 10, 11 spots. You know, I still agree with the value, late first, early second. And that is where T. Higgins was selected, really early second. Another guy, and this one's actually kind of funny because of how far he's actually slid, and that's Jake Fromm. At this time, I was speculating New England should get Jake Fromm. It just makes a lot of sense. He's not Tom Brady. Let's get that clear. If anything, he's a Case Keenum, Andy Dalton early on in his career. A great backup who, if your quarterback went down and he had to miss 4 to 6 weeks, it's a great fill-in to have. You know, Jake Fromm is just a really good backup to have at this stage of his career. You know, or not in this stage of his, yeah, I guess so. Early years, he could be a really good backup that gets a crack at starting somewhere. The thing is, like, there are a lot of teams. I'm not going to say the NFL's quarterback rich, but there are so many teams who have their quarterback, and there are so many teams that think they may have their future quarterback that it's just kind of hard to really separate the teams who do and don't have their quarterback, whether it actually is their guy or whether or not they're actually committing to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you could argue there's like 10 teams that could probably use a different quarterback, but some teams are so quarterback rich right now, it's not even crazy. Or it is crazy, I should say. It's just wow. But anyway, English is hard today. Jake Fromm goes 5th round to the Buffalo Bills, and I think that's a great landing spot. A lot of people hating on it because the Patriots were the next pick, and that's where people wanted to see him go. Tough shit. The Bills said no. The value is too good to pass up on, and he's a good backup from Josh Allen. He's not the same kind of quarterback as Josh Allen. They're two total opposites. But if Josh Allen got his head knocked loose because he didn't know how to slide and he got a concussion, that's a good, good backup to have from. He can come in, make the smart plays. It would suck for the deep threats on the team like John Brown because, well, he's not going to take all the deep shots all the time. But Cole Beasley, Devin Singletary, those guys would eat with Jake Fromm. Those guys would be able to, be pretty good with Jake Fromm. Another guy, Christian Fulton. He fell late second to the Tennessee Titans, and I had this guy going 25th to the Minnesota Vikings, and it just did not happen. It just didn't happen. I don't know what led to him slipping. I guess people's cornerback boards were different, so I guess that's just what it comes down to, and he ended up slipping. I thought, late first, early second. He slid all the way to the late second to Tennessee. So good pickup for Tennessee, a team that definitely needed to figure out their cornerback situation. The next guy was DeAndre Swift. I thought he'd be a first rounder at this time as well. To me, if any running back should have been a first rounder at this time, I thought it was DeAndre Swift, and I pretty much stuck with that through and through. I had him going to the Dolphins at 26. He goes, I think, pick 35 to Detroit. So not that far off, but I thought he'd be a first rounder. Another guy's Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney, 1A, 1B with Grant Delpit in terms of who's the best safety in the class coming out. I like both of them. Xavier McKinney, not the athlete that Grant Delpit is, but he's more technically sound in what he can do. And, I guess you take the good with the bad. He's not the athlete, but you do get the concern in his play early on. And the Giants got a pretty good player with him at number 36 overall. I had Xavier McKinney going to the Seattle Seahawks. At that time, I'm just thinking, well, they could really use a smart player like this to play back there at safety. Seattle's always looking for defensive backs that are versatile, can do a little bit of things. They'll often move safeties to corner full time. Like Trey Flowers, who is terrible as a corner, but there's just a good example of like what Seattle will do with safeties. They'll move them to corner. Another guy I had was Yetur Gross-Matos, man. He ended up going like in the second round. I want to say like pick 39 to the Carolina Panthers. I had him going here to the Tennessee Titans. I thought they'd really look for that guy to pair up with Vic Beasley, and Harold Landry, to be like another edge rusher, another outside linebacker. And it just didn't happen. They go with Isaiah Wilson in the first round instead, a right tackle who I anticipate will kick inside the guard. Very interesting pick. And then finally, no, there's two more actually. Trayvon Diggs. This was interesting. I thought he'd go late first, early second. I had him going to the 49ers in this mock draft 1.0. Instead, he goes to the Dallas Cowboys in like the middle of the second round. Great value there for Dallas. And Dallas really had a good draft as well. I mean, you look at the talent they brought in. Really good draft from Dallas. And then Jonathan Taylor. I had Jonathan Taylor going to the Kansas City Chiefs in my mock draft 1.0. They elect to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Can't really knock him for that. Jonathan Taylor, I think, went at pick 34 to the Indianapolis. No. He went like pick 41 or something to the Indianapolis Colts. 34 was Michael Pittman. Jonathan Taylor went 44th overall. That's their actual fourth round pick. The 34 was from the Redskins. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, I just thought would have been a pretty good option to have as a running back for Kansas City. A downhill runner, pair him up with Damian Williams, Darwin Thompson. But they like to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Not mad at that either. He does have the potential to be a 3-down running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they'll probably continue the running back by committee approach. So yeah, there's a recap of my mock draft 1.0 compared to the actual 2020 NFL draft. You heard about the picks I got right. You heard about guys that I had in the first round that did not go first round at all. And I want you to keep it. You're talking about a 7-week gap, 7 weeks between my first mock versus what actually happened. So much has happened. The coronavirus was not that serious. The Bills and Colts still had their first round picks. Tom Brady had yet to make a decision on where he was going to go. So many things have changed between now and then. It's just funny to look back at it and be like, damn, well, that's crazy. How many can you actually get right? And I came away with 7 picks that actually stayed true from my mock draft 1.0 to now. So I just thought that was pretty cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and the next video will continue to go over some of the notable day 2 and day 3 picks for all 32 teams, doing it by division, of course. I think the next one we have is the AFC South. That should be fun. Talking about the Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, and the Tennessee Titans. That one should be fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace out.